Right, so I was recording, but I forgot to turn my mic on, so I'm having to do a voiceover thing afterwards. I'm turning this Xbox on now. It's going to flash red and amber, but I can press eject and load into IND BIOS anyway. Now, the reason it's going red and amber is because it's got 7 RAM modules on it. I did install 4 extra RAM modules onto it, making a total of 8. But the reason I did that was to find out which one of the Hynix modules was bad. Turned out it was the one that I put in the third bank, and so I've removed that. So this control only has 7 modules. Now what I was planning to do today, and what I did do, is install an 8th module, but I didn't have any more Hynix modules, so I was putting another Samsung on, so that'd be 5 Samsung modules and 3 Hynix modules, and I didn't know if that would work, but I'm going to go ahead now and flash this Xbox with XBlast OS on the TSOP so I can do the RAM testing easier. I do that by using XBlast OS, the dashboard basically, to do a net. For some reason, even though there was an IP address on the dashboard previously, it wasn't picking up the IP address here. So I kept checking the Ethernet cables to see if it was connected, and it was connected, and it should have been working fine. So I didn't really understand what was going on there. Now the reason I do a net flash rather than a hard disk drive flash using XBlast is because anything that uses anything even remotely like Gen 2X does not like my S-type controller. I'll wave it about in a minute, saying, oh, it doesn't like my S-type. But I did have some Dukes in the corner that I need to look at and repair. And I know for a fact that Gen 2X works with every Duke controller. So I grabbed this first one, and I need to fish out one of the little breakaway cables, so I do that. And this first controller, the A button doesn't work on it, which was quite annoying, but it seems to mostly work, so that controller will be fine. I'll just strip it down, clean it, and replace the little conductive sticker thing, because they've got like conductive stickers, not conductive pads on the buttons. It's like a conductive sticker, like a conductive film that gets pressed down. They get worn out, so it's to be expected. So this first controller, this doesn't work, but I do find another one which is in a, after I've piddled about with this for a bit, and that one works. So I really should have fast forwarded through this part, but it doesn't look like I have, because I have edited this video down already to what I think the video should be at the end, and now I'm watching it and talking about it as I'm watching it. I'm not sure if that's how you usually do a vlog. I've never done one before, but yeah, that's how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to have to talk bollocks for a bit now, which I'm quite good at, otherwise it's going to be dead air. Or actually, I'll probably just fast forward this bit a little bit more when I come to edit the audio in. So yeah. Alright, so should be back now. This should be the working controller, and I'm going into XBlast. I'm going to the XBlast OS XBE to launch it, and now I'm going to try and do a hard drive flash, because there I go banging on about how the S-type controllers don't work for me. Well, that's my favourite one, and that one doesn't work. So I go to hard drive flash, and I've got a BIOS bin already in there, and then I have to push the buttons a few times, but eventually this controller does do it, and it flashes. So that's another controller that's going to work. I just need to clean it. So that's XBlast installed, and that's going to let me easily, well, I say easily, it's going to let me test the RAM without having to do a lot of pissing about. This Xbox, I think I've mentioned, is a 1.4. I wouldn't normally bother with a 1.4. I'd rather do a 1.0 or a 1.1 where I can split the TSOP. But yeah, so I was going to check how much RAM there was, because it's based on Gen 2. The swapping the controller just meant that the controller wasn't detected anymore. So I'm going to do a RAM test now, just to show that there's nothing in. Well, I don't know why I did this, because RAM chip 3 has been removed. I removed it in a previous video. I don't know if I've uploaded it or if I've decided it wasn't worth uploading, but either way, now I'm going to strip down the console, and I've skipped that bit, so this is most of the way teared down. Removing the ATX connector and that, and I'll just be, oh yeah, I'm going to resize the videos here to try and make it a more zoomed in view, slightly. So, because usually I'd have the Xbox screen on the top left corner, but I won't be needing it for quite a while, so I'm going to try resizing it, because I've noticed you can't really see anything through the webcam view because everything's too small. And my microscope is stupid. It's like 10 times too magnified for what I need it to be. So this is the best I can set her up. I don't really use the microscope for doing actual work. I use the microscope for checking for bridges and other issues afterwards. It's handy to look around the board and say, oh, that looks wrong, or that looks right. So that's mainly what I use it for. Now I'm looking for something to prop it up, and in a minute I'll find a hard drive. I'll go and get a hard drive from a pile of hard drives, because nothing on the desk seems to be the right height. So I'll cut to, there it is, to me getting the hard drive. That's an old dead hard drive. It's got a sticker and it says dead, so I wasn't worried about it, and I figured that if I put it in the center there, then it's pretty good for getting it where it wants. Right, there's the Samsung chip on top of that drive. I barely saw it. I would have mentioned it prior, but nothing there then. So I'm just checking here for where the dot is. I'm showing you where pin 1 is, that white dot, and then I'm showing, well, I'm trying to show on the Samsung chips they've got 2 dots, and the pin 1 dot is the small dark one, not the larger matte one. So I was just pointing that out, and I try and demonstrate how I do my flux to start it. What I do is I put a flux in the middle there. This is not for soldering. This flux that I've put down here is not for soldering at all. It's for holding the chip in place, giving it something tacky. I've zoomed in more there, and so I'm just saying I'd run it diagonally down like this, from the top pin 1 down to the bottom corner, and right down the middle. And the reason I do that, like I said, is so the chip doesn't move about as much, because flux is quite tacky. I mean, not in this state, it's not. You can rub it about and it will be a bit tacky, but you'll see what I do in a minute. So first thing I do is I explain the pin, the little dots again for pin 1. And I'm probably saying now you need to kind of line it up, but it's not important right now. You just plonk it down there, and then just give it a little bit of a wiggle, because the flux will squeeze out like thermal paste, and coat the bottom of it, giving it a bit of a adhesion. Which means, because if you try and do it without putting the flux there, and these solder pads, because I've already removed RAM off them, have solder on them, and it gets to be a pain in the ass to get them on the pads and not between the pads. So I've done that, and now I'm showing how I align the pins. I use Antec 00 tweezers, and I just kind of poke the corners at the top and the bottom at the same time to rotate it, because if you just push on the top corner, the whole thing will shift across rather than rotate. So you want to do a corner to a corner first, so you line up those ones, the top thin rows first. In my opinion, is the best way to do it. Check how close you are around all the pins. That's why my microscope's moving about, and you can look from there and say, okay, I'm a little bit out, I need a little bit more rotation, or I might need to push it up a bit or push it down a bit. So that's an epic focus there. That's just I don't even know what the fuck I was doing there. Right, so I can see here that'd be pretty close. I'd usually be happy with that, but apparently I'm like, I'll just nudge it up a bit. I want to get it a little bit more perfect for some reason, and I'm explaining the rotating and then the moving. So I'm checking the top pins again, the side pins, and I mean, I understand why I've done this, because it is important. This is like probably the most important part, is making sure you've lined the thing up to start it. And I'm just going to give it a little nudge up a bit, and now I'm heating it up because it was all aligned, and I'm heating it up. I'm not heating it up to melt the solder, I'm heating it up to melt the flux that I put there, because I'll heat it up, the flux will melt and it'll flow a bit, and I'll let the board cool down, and then it's very unlikely that that chip's going to move at all. Once that flux has cooled down again, it gets really sticky, so it'll be tacky as all hell under there. And the reason I do that is because the last thing you want is to go and solder the corner legs in, like I will now, and the thing move. I put a little drop of flux on top of the chip to see how hot it was, to see if the flux had gone sticky or not. Right, so what I'm doing now is I'm using a C1 size tip, and I'm coming in and I'm trying to heat like the pad and the pin, and then I'll just tap a little bit of solder to it, and that's one corner soldered. And then I'll do like 3 corners. I'll rotate the board. I'd rather rotate the board than move myself, so I'll do another same thing here, just do a corner and then move to another corner. I'll probably skip that, but or I might not skip it. I don't know what I did with the video now. Yeah, I've skipped it. So now I'm checking after doing the corners that all the legs are still where I want them to be, because this is almost the point of, well, I'm doing it. I'd say no return, but there is always return. So what I'll do now is I'll put some flux on there, and I like to solder these legs individually. I know people say drag soldering, but every time I do drag soldering I've got to do it like 4 or 5 fucking times before it's actually all the legs are soldered. I mean, usually I'd do this method with boards that don't have any solder on the pads, or at least not already used solder on the pads. So drag soldering would have probably been the better method here, because there's so much solder already there. But I was demonstrating my method, so I come in with a chisel tip sideways. As you can see, that it just sits in between the pins, and I put a bit of and all along I know what I'm saying here. I'm saying we don't care about bridges right now. Bridges are your friends. If you get bridges, that's good. It means there's solder there. That's the kind of thing I'm saying now. I know for a fact I went overboard after a bit, and I just started deliberately putting bridges in, especially on the last side. I was saying, oh look, I'm well, you'll see. I went deliberately out of my way to make massive bridges on the final side. Anyway, I think I fast forward through this bit. Well, I say fast forward. I speed up the video a little bit after a while here, because it's just the same thing. You just do that. Yeah, there we go. It's gone a bit faster. Like, that's fine. Don't mind the solder bridges. Don't worry about the solder bridges. Solder bridges come away at the end. You just add a bit of flux and they'll come away. Don't worry about them. Don't even think about them until you're done. Solder all the legs first and then worry about the bridges. So it's I've moved it off the shot there, but yeah, the only thing I'm worried about right now is that every pad and every leg has solder. And then I add flux just to help the flow, because I usually wouldn't bother, but because I don't add solder every leg, well, I am here because by now I've gone mad and said, oh yeah, it doesn't matter, bridges, love them. But because you don't add solder every leg, you need the flux there, otherwise it's not going to flow properly. The solder on your tip's going to oxidize, because once it's burnt off the flux that's in it, it's already burnt off, so there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to add extra flux, because there's flux in the solder core. It's just yeah, this is when I go absolutely haywire and deliberately add. Did you see me how much fucking solder I added there, just to be like, yeah, watch this, because this is to prove bridges aren't a problem. Then I come back to the front side and I say, right, to remove bridges you add flux, you put your tip on the legs and the pads, let them heat up for a second, and then just drag down slowly, and this will put all the solder that's in excess on your tip. And you just do it, you just take the time and just do it. It's nothing to worry about, it's nothing to panic about. You don't need to get your solder wick out. You just go there, you heat it up and you move it. And if it's solder wants to move to the hot surface, so as long as your iron's hot enough, which it is, mine's at about 270 here by the way, because anything higher is too much. Then it'll move. Then I'm just making sure all the legs have got all the solder, and then I'll come back and I'll clear out the bridges again. And then I should, if I'm not an idiot, check that there are no bridges after I'm done, or I'll wait until I've finished the whole chip and then check. But I'd usually do it after yeah, I'm doing it now, because like I said, I'd usually do it. Yeah, I'd look at the top for bridges, and then I'd look at the bottom. So look at the top, look at the bottom, look at the top, look at the bottom, and then if there's no bridges, move on to the next place. And it's just a matter of just moving the solder from one place to another. It's like there's too much solder here, fine, move it over there. And every time you see my iron disappear, I'm cleaning it. You've got to clean your iron tip. You put in wire wool and you just thrash the living daylight out of it into wire wool, and it'll clean all the solder off it. And this one, see, this one's a little bit difficult, so you just need to kind of get it to move. And I've left it now because I don't want to overheat those pads. Though I can come back to that in a minute, so I'm not worried about it. There's no point spending 5 minutes on one bridge when there's other things to do. I can come back to that one, and by then those pads will cool down and I'm not gonna burn them off the board, because the amount of times I've seen people burning pads off the board is ridiculous. So just come back again and I'll add more flux, because obviously there's not enough there. And then I bash the camera about for a couple of minutes for no reason, and then I'll just come in and I'll put my iron, the flat part of my iron, right on it for about 2 seconds and slide it down, and then I'll clean my tip, and then I'll do the same here and clean my tip, and then that's all it is. It's just the solder will go to where there is no solder. If there's no solder on your tip and the tip's hot, it's gonna go onto the tip. So just do that, and then go back and check for more bridges. Wobble the camera about a bit, but yeah, check for bridges. Seems fine. I've seen something there I don't like the look of. I'm probably saying I don't think this leg here has enough solder on it, so I'm coming in with the iron and just dabbing a bit of solder on it. So that one there, that was a good example of how you do an individual leg, because I wasn't rushing, I just did it and I didn't bridge it at all. Right, these ones, I think this is the side where I put all this is where I really got cheeky with the solder. So I move the solder across like that first. That spreads it out, because you just move it and you don't want it one big clump that takes up a load of heat. So I'll just come in now and then I'll leave my iron on it for a second or two, and then I'll clean my iron and I'll do that again, and lo and behold, the solder stuck to my iron, and then I've cleaned it off. I showed my iron tip there for a bit, showing that I'd cleaned it, and it should be that clean every time you go back to the board if you're getting rid of bridges, because otherwise you're just going to be putting more solder there, or just not moving solder away. But as you can see, I should have slowed that bit down, but the bridge started right at the top of those legs, and then the heat pulled it down to the middle of the legs, and then from there I dragged it down to the pads, and then from the pads off the board, because that's just how I do it. Like, this looks like a big blob. So what I'll do here probably is leave the soldering iron there for a second or two and get it to really suck it, use the whole tip's worth of solder holding ability to get as much of that off as I could in one go. And then, yeah, that's, I mean, you should be able to see that it's that they are coming away. There's nothing to worry about getting bridges. There's no reason to go, oh no, I've got a bridge, what will I do, and panic about it. They will come away. So then again, you check the top of the pins and then the pad, the top of the pins, pads, and just look up and down, look up and down. If you don't see any bridges, move on. That's the last one, the one I went deliberately just put in like half a roll of fucking solder in. So I haven't noticed that the camera's not looking where it was now. I think I do slow the footage back down now though, for showing the, because you saw I'd put like half a fucking roll of solder there on those last pins. So this is an extreme bridge. So what I'm doing here is I'm coming in, leaving it for 2 seconds, and then I'm lifting my soldering iron straight up. I'm not dragging it down, I'm just lifting it straight off, cleaning it, holding it, lifting it clean off, cleaning it, and doing that until I've got the majority of it off. Because like I said, if your soldering iron's clean, the solder will go to the soldering iron. And now I've done that, that didn't take any time at all to get the majority of it off. I can go back and get rid of the bridges like I've been showing how for the rest of the video. So it's just a matter of heat it up and drag it down. So yeah, I'm sure this part of the video is superfluous. So there's quite a lot on that one, so I'm doing the hold it down and lift it off technique, and then I'll probably drag those down now because they look like less. And as I said, I'll leave bridges in some places because I've got other stuff to do. I can move on and then I'll come back to it. There's no rush, and sweep away the bridges because I've got the majority of the roll of solder that I'd left it off. So you don't need to come in with your solder wick. Like some people come in with a solder wick, and if you do that, you take off so much solder. You're just starting again. You got to start again. You got to put more solder on. But now, like that, it's fine. So after this, I'll heat up the board and use well, the baby wipes there. I dry out baby wipes. I don't know, Huggies baby wipes, whatever. I just let them dry out till they're bone dry. Anyway, so I'll heat up the board now at about like 100, not hot at all, just to get the flux to flow again. And then once the flux has flowed, I'll take my bone dry baby wipe and I'll put it on the board, pat it down, and you'll see that it sucks up nearly all the flux straight away. Because if you don't do that and you just start cleaning it with acetone or something, or IPA, you just spread it about, and it's like trying to wash Vaseline or something. It's not the, it doesn't work. You gotta get the majority of it off first, and then you can wash the residue off. And you do wash the residue off, by the way. You come in afterwards and you you wash it with acetone or IPA after you've done this, but using your dry lint cloth or whatever you want to use, I just think that baby wipes, they're very inexpensive. You get like 400 in a pack or whatever, and you can just leave them on the radiator overnight and they're dry. Right, so now I'm going to just check for bridges. This microscope is just way too strong for what I need. 6 times magnification would be plenty for this. Right, so I've done something now. I don't know what I've done. All right, I'm zooming out and I'm repositioning everything. I think I was just cleaning the board and finished. Right, so I'm moving all the cameras about, so that means I'm getting ready to test. So I really should have put some like fade transitions in between the cuts and stuff, but I think this video is going to be more than long enough as it is, even with my attempt at editing. Oh, I've just magicked the computer. I've magicked the Xbox back together. Right, now I'm plugging the power in. And then right, so it already says there it's 128 meg, so don't need to do the test, but I'm going to anyway. And yeah, I mean, we all know the test is going to succeed. It's already said 128 megs at the previous screen, so yeah, I guess that's the video done. I should have a fade out transition here as well, but I don't, do I? So it's just going to be an abrupt stop, I think.